So the hazard fusion data set is a combination of the NCEI, from the National Weather Service, the NCEI storm events data set, and a series of data products from Open FEMA, which are, and a couple of other federal agencies, which are related to the federally declared disasters. And so what we've done in creating the hazard fusion data set is we have associated the NCEI data products based on location and time bounds, as well as by hazard type or peril category. We have associated those with the Open FEMA data via the federal declaration parameters. So the time bounds of the federal declaration and the peril categories or the hazard categories associated with those. So, and we have the methodology is fully available on the About page, which you can access via the top navigation. And we provide a rundown here of exactly what's going on inside of the data product. We have a documentation here, and this breaks down the report from the development of the data set, and shows basically how we arrived at the product. So I'm not going to go too deep into this. This is what we talked a lot about last meeting. Today's meeting, what we hoped to provide to you was some more insight into how we think this might be useful for mitigation planning. As I mentioned on the last call, we work closely with the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services on their mitigation planning program. And we are providing a lot of this data directly to them for their mitigation planning, which they do via a web-based platform. So we have extensive knowledge about how we've used this for their planning purposes. And so we're providing a lot of this very same visualizations, tables, graphs, maps, et cetera, that we provide for them. We're providing on this platform. And so, Adam, if you could take me into the mitigation planning products page. And we'll go maybe to, right. So the mitigation planning products is the section I'd like to talk about today. We have a national analysis page that's a set of national analyses as well that give you like an overview of the entire product at the state level, and it gives you comparisons about states and counties, gives you comparisons about hazards across the country. But what we think for mitigation planning purposes, what we think is going to be extremely helpful are these planning products. And we have a list of them here. So data for your state, data for your county, and you can just sort of get into them this way. This is an index page that allows you to navigate towards some of those other pages. But at the top navigation panel, you'll see here that we have a list of different page types, right? We have our state page, our county page, our disaster page, a state hazard page, and a county hazard page. We will also have examples for all of those coming soon. We do have an example county page and an example disaster page, which provide a little bit more guidance about each page and what each visualization is showing. I'm going to do that verbally today. We're going to go through the state, county, disaster, state hazard page, and county hazard pages, and I'll verbally explain, what these visualizations are and how you might use them in your mitigation planning purposes. So, state page. The first thing to note here is that for every one of these pages, it will load some default data for every component, but the way to make it load all uniformly and to change to make sure you're getting the proper loaded data here, we recommend the first step is to set your filters. And so this is a filter at the top of the page, and you can select your filter. So we'll select Georgia as perfect there. And then it takes a second to proliferate down through the page, but you'll see that the title changes, and then the tables and the cards and everything start changing appropriately to go along with that. So the first thing I'd like to do is talk just a little bit about what we're doing right out of the gate here is showing just some high level information, right? The number of events, the number of declared disasters, and number of non-declared disasters, and then total fusion damage. As I mentioned earlier, the NCEI data and the federally declared disaster data the fusion data product brings those two together. And we have made the methodology as such that there's no double counting of data. So when we have federally declared disasters associated with NCEI events, we have the location specific information, et cetera. We basically take out we associate those two so that there's no double counting. And ultimately, if there's any leftover storm event information or there's any leftover federally declared disaster information that can't be associated, those are listed as events, right? And so there's lots of events that we're calling non-declared disasters that just are never associated with federally declared disasters. And so you see here that we are showing those in this way here. Then we provide, for anyone who's done mitigation planning, you've got to be able to report out on your hazard types. And so we provide some information on number of events, number of declared disasters, total fusion damage, non-declared disasters. And if there's additional information that folks would like to see on hazards that are associated with this, whether that be information about the different kinds of loss and stuff like that, we can also potentially provide additional information. But right out of the gate, this is showing you the same metrics as the top of the page was showing. And as we scroll down here, we see stats by hazard by type. These are cards that you could potentially utilize in your planning purposes, or at least a quick reference that allows you to see these things. We would like in the near future to be able to provide this as a downloadable image, so like a PNG or an SVG that you can export out of here, so that you could use it that way. We recommend in the meantime to utilize like a snipping tool or some other screen share mechanism to if you'd like to reuse any of these visualizations. Scrolling down from here. So we're going to show here the visualizations by year first and foremost, right? So we're looking at the state hazard events by year, and you can see we've also broken it out by hazard type. One thing to note is that this data goes back to 1996, so it's 1996 through 2020 through 2024 at this point. And sorry, 2023, I believe, is where it goes through. So 1996 through 2023, and the data. The reason why we do have data on declared disasters, and there is information in the NCEI database that dates back before 1996. But as of 1996, the formatting arrived at with the modern format, and so we're utilizing 1996 as a starting point with the Fusion data set. Although you can we do provide the other data products that you can download from here if you'd like to play around with the data pre-1996. Also, just to note that the data is updated. I saw a question come through. The data is updated in September of every year, and so in September we have our update cycle in which we're sure, or we feel confident that the data through the end of the previous year is fully loaded into both the Open FEMA and into the NCEI, or at least close. We feel pretty confident there's been enough a time lapse there that's going to be relatively stable information about the previous year. So so for in 2024 we did an update. This 2024 data product includes the data through to the end of 2023. So and this will be updated again in a couple of months too. We also have, information, hazard events by county. You see that we also have some work to do on this graph above, where the x-axis information is just not showing very well right now. We have ways that we'll play around with figuring that out, but the data is showing by county in that situation and by hazard types. Which is also shown here in the table. Also note that you can download any of the tables using the icon there. So this can show you your download here. Moving through here, we also have the comparison between declared and non-declared disasters. So the number of declared, number of dollars of declared, non-declared, and non-declared dollars, right? And so in these cases, we also can break it out by hazard. So you're seeing the stacked bar graph on the left, in which case you can see hurricane is really the main source of declared disaster loss for the state of Georgia. As we scroll down further, we can see now the list of declared disasters. So this list of declared disasters includes the year, the primary hazard. One thing to note here, we are utilizing throughout the site what we're calling the primary hazard category, which when there is data associated with a declared disaster, the hazard that is associated with that declared disaster is the primary hazard. Meaning that, like, for instance, there are probably going to be, in any hurricane, there are going to be a lot of NCEI events in which they might be labeled coastal flooding, or they might be labeled flooding in general, or wind, lightning sometimes. NCEI is predominantly, the purpose of NCEI is for meteorological tracking. We're using it for mitigation planning, but it's about tracking meteorological hazard events. And so a hurricane could be made up of a lot of NCEI events that have different hazard types. So we have made it inside of our system here where the primary one, whenever there's a disaster declaration, the primary one is based on the FEMA federally declared category. We also track the other category, which comes from the NCEI as well as a secondary hazard category. The hazard categories themselves, we outline all of this in the methodology. The hazard categories are based on the NRI category types. So the hazard types from the NRI, the National Risk Index, they did phenomenal work on setting up, at least arriving at a consensus about what those hazards are and what they mean. And then some of their work in mapping those across from NCEI meteorological events, all of that work is brought through into this. So we are mapping those NCEI events to the NRI categories, and then also so all of these have arrived at a place where they're using the NRI categorization either as primary or as secondary hazards. But we additionally, for these declared disasters, we provide the total fusion damage, which is the combination of fusion property damage, fusion crop damage, and fusion population damage. So Adam, if you scroll through that table up above, yeah, this one here, right? So and actually, we're not showing in that one the population damage, but population damage is based on the same multiplier that the NRI uses for deaths and injuries. And if you scroll down here, we do start to break that out by disaster loss program. So each disaster has the various programs that the losses are associated with. So public assistance, individual household, the Small Business Association, NFIP, and the USDA crop loss. Any one of these, so I don't think this is set up yet, but we intend to have it so that all of these can be linked across to the disaster page if you wanted to look at the specific disaster page. This is something that we intend to be offering in the next month or two. Between now and the next webinar, we'll have that available as well. Declared disaster loss by program by county is showing you this at the county level as opposed to at the disaster level. So this is just aggregating it slightly differently here. And this is, again, this is data that you'll be able to see at the county level as well. And individual assistance. So now we start looking at individual assistance by disaster, and then individual assistance by county. And we can keep going down and look at it by, each of the various federal programs. So you have all this information this is all basically state level. And then the non-declared disasters here at the bottom are the remaining. So of all of the NCEI that was not associated with all of the federally declared disasters, these are those, right? So this is the 45,000 rows of NCEI events information for the state of Georgia. So, so this is a state page. Again, most of how we shape the data here, this is stuff that gets utilized in the New York State planning program, and so we've brought it across to this platform as a way of aggregating it and allowing you to just plug and play. So all you got to do is enter your state in the top here. You also got to know your state's initials, I guess, and then download if you'd like to, or like I said, screenshot, like snipping the visualizations if you want to use those that way. So we'll take a look at the county page. This county page will look very familiar. So, but this one you'll want to start by setting your state. So if we want to choose a state, and then we want to choose a county. But so a similar setup here for the county. So if you want to export, by county, you can do that here as well. So, or if you are doing a county mitigation plan and you just want everything filtered down to your specific county, this is the page to do that, right? You can take a look at the county specific information as you go down here. So just a quick tour of this, right? So one of the things to note is that the data that we are utilizing is the Fusion data is at the county level. It does not go below the county level. There are some events within the NCEI database that are location specific, and there are some that are jurisdictional specific. We found that there's not enough consistency in the NCEI data at that level to be able to be confident in the municipal totals. So we are not providing it at the municipal level. Additionally, the data that we get from some of the federal data sets stop at the county level, some go lower, and so we picked the county level as a place at which we stop our level of data. So this is only available at the county level. So you're not going to see through here the municipal information, although there might be a couple of, I'm not sure of this, but there might be a couple of tables below at the that can show it because of the aggregation of the FEMA data. So as we go through here, you'll notice, so we've got the similar setup, and I'm going to take us down the page, and then I'll show you how we can link across to some of the other pages. So hazard events by year, hazard events, by declared versus non-declared. We have our declarations by, you have the declaration numbers there, and then we have the loss by program by declaration. And then each of these individual assistance and SBA and et cetera, right? And it could additionally be some of the visualizations that are on the state page that are not here yet. We're happy to add in if there's anything else that folks would like to see. Please let us know. But as you go down here to the total loss by hazard, you'll see there's a link in the hazard where it says hazard profile. So we're going to take a look at hurricane. Sure, that's perfect. So, right. So let's set this to Albany again. Let's do the New York State. So similarly, like we're setting our state. Once you set your state, the county is the list of counties is filtered based on the state that you chose. And if we go to hurricane, that link really should bring us to this location with those filters in place. And as we go down here, we'll see the that we can look at a single hazard for a county as well, because this is one of the things that when you do your hazard profiles, you'll need to do this at the hazard level in your mitigation plan. So very similar sort of thing. We're bringing you down through the page to introduce you to the specific hazard, the disasters associated with that hazard, and other events that are associated with it as well. Additionally, here we're showing you, so this historic hazard loss by type per year. Interesting one to show what I was mentioning earlier about primary hazard category versus secondary hazard category. What you're seeing here is that some of these categories are these are the NCEI event types within hurricane, right? So you're seeing that some of these are just listed as different kinds of, so you have hurricane and flooding. NCEI lists them as a separate event. So we've preserved that information as secondary hazard type. And we can see hazard loss by month as well. So this page, breaks out some of the hazards, each hazard, and data about each and every hazard. So this is the county level version of this page. Adam did show really quick when he was clicking through the state level of the page as well. So you can do it here where all of the visualizations below are set to the state level. So you can just set your hazard type and your state and give it a minute to load, and you'll be able to take that data out of here as well. So the California coastal hazards, and you can work through it that way. So this gives you the ability to pull out your data for a specific county and a specific hazard for part of your risk assessment. Okay, so the last page that is part of the mitigation planning products is the disaster profile page. So this page here, like you'll have to know your disaster number. So 4020 we know is Irene in New York State. It's one we work with a lot, caused a lot of flooding. So we've loaded 4020 into here, and now we have information specific to all of the counties. And then as you go down here, you can start to look through the loss by program, by type, et cetera. And we have information about fusion loss by county. You can see all of the different, deaths and injuries, et cetera. Federal funding by program, by county. So you can actually start to see where this played out in a lot of different ways, right? We have public assistance information, individual assistance information, et cetera. You can select by damage category if you're interested in seeing specific types of things like, protective measures is one thing, or you could look at, like, I think you can see some about PA, public utilities, public buildings, transportation, et cetera. So you can filter this table to see lower levels of information about the public assistance. And any of these can be exported, again, as that with that icon on the right. As we keep going down here, you'll see there's a lot of different ways that we can break out disaster information. So this is aggregating all of the open FEMA, the SBA, the crop loss data, the hazard mitigation assistance program data. All of the different data for a specific disaster can be located on this page if you know your disaster number at the top for the filter.
Yeah, I think one thing I'll jump in and just add here is, a lot of some of these visualizations may seem a little bit similar. And, as we kind of develop this platform, one of the things that we really noticed is, it's all pointing towards the same data, but we want to come at it from a couple different angles. And mitigation planners might be wanting to come at it from a couple different angles. You might be coming at it from the angle of looking at a particular disaster, and this is the page you would come to if that's the angle that you're trying to communicate within your plans. Likewise, if you're coming from a state planning level, you would come in through the state page and look at the data through that lens. So we're really trying to provide a variety variety of lenses to be looking at this data in, but there's nothing that says that you can't use one of these visualizations in a way that's, novel or unique to whatever you're trying to convey in your plans.
Great. And so in review of what we're showing here with these mitigation planning products pages, right? We have a state level page and a county level page that aggregates all of the hazards. So it would be like if you think of like an all hazards page in a mitigation plan that compares each and every hazard. And we'll take a look at that again here, either at the state or county level. Doesn't matter too much. It compares each and every hazard. It shows all of the disasters. It shows all information about hazard related data at a couple of different grouped aggregations, right? So this first table is grouped by hazard type, and so you can look at all of your hazards at that geography for that geography and have an all hazards type display of that data, right? But then we also provide that same thing at the lower geographic level at the county level. And then we offer information about specific hazards at both the state and county level. So as we showed, we have the ability to look at, let's say, hurricane at the county or state level. And you have all of the 18 or 20 NRI categories that you have available to work through there. So you can look at any of those NRI style hazard categories for the state or the county level. And then lastly, we showed the disaster page, which takes any single disaster and shows you all the open FEMA data, the SBA data, the crop loss and the NFIP data for that specific disaster in a couple of different aggregations and groups of data. So, again, this is all meant to hopefully provide a large swath of the data that you would need in a mitigation plan risk assessment at the various levels that you might need it at, both for state planning purposes and for county planning purposes. Are there any questions?
Yeah, there was a question
from
Kevin. And he wants to know about congressional pre-disaster mitigation and flood mitigation assistance.
Okay, so yeah, so that's a good question. We haven't done a lot of work with those yet. So the question is about HMGP, HMA data, right? And so there's examples of congressional pre-disaster mitigation and flood mitigation assistance within HMA and the HMGP data products. And so there is a possibility, and I guess we'll have to look into this on our end about how to aggregate those or separate out those based on those types of HMA data. We did have one HMA data product at the bottom of at the bottom of a lot of these pages, but we didn't provide a filter on those to be able to filter them by the various categories within HMA. And so that's something that we can look into doing on all of these pages. So that's a great suggestion. Very much appreciate it. Are there any other questions or concerns about this? Thoughts? But there is one question that just popped up. So I know this is the way NCI data gets aggregated, but I'm looking at Iowa and seeing a lot of hurricane damage, but it looks like it's primarily from non-hurricane related flooding. Right. Yeah. So the category stuff, we tried to give as much, we tried to give a lot of value, or like one of the things that we may even want to provide even more transparency on the data going forward. We have mapped it all to the NCEI, the NRI category types, but we may want to preserve the event types. One of the things that Adam is showing right now is the relationship between events, episodes, and disasters inside of our. So when we talked about primary and secondary categories, it's possible in the future we could consider continuing to include, just for purposes of transparency, the NCEI specific types, but you can see here in this table that we're showing is the NRI hazard type on the left with the NCEI event types on the right. There is nothing we can do about the way it got reported either in NCEI or in the disaster declarations. So if something got reported as hurricane in one of those situations, just because it did, that's going to be preserved in the data product. We're not going through and like changing that kind of stuff. But that's something we have talked with the folks at the NCEI, and they do take comments and requests for changes and stuff like that. So that's something you can do is reach out to them about any issues you see there. So can you currently get a simple list of the declared disaster numbers, names by county and hazard type? So you're right. So that would be a great question. So how to do this task, right? So if we wanted to go to, so if we wanted to do county and hazard type, you could do this in two different ways. We could go here so go to Vermont for us. And let's go to a specific county for fun. Bennington County sounds great. Let's see if we can get, so we're looking for disaster names by county with hazard type. Declared disasters right here. So I believe this might be what you're looking for, Caroline. And we can do that at the hazard level if we wanted to by going directly to each hazard page. But this one will give you your whole list for the state or for that county. If you wanted to see this at the state level, we could take you to the state page, which would be on the left here. Yep, beautiful. And we could set it to Vermont and go down to the disaster declarations list, and that'll give you your hazards and disaster numbers. So Greg asks, can you touch base on how well NCEI data is getting inputted these days? It seems like they don't have as many folks putting data in as they did in the past. It's a great question. We don't have any insight in that right now. I actually, my understanding, we had a meeting with them. My understanding is that like what they do at the data entry at the NCEI, some of their work is data entry, and then some of it is just checking the data that's coming in from other folks. There's it's a network of people that provide information up to them. So we are happy to follow through with finding out more and reporting back at the next webinar. Okay, so just a couple of final notes about the platform for today's purposes. Adam was going to show us on the mitigation planning products page here the example county and the example disaster. And so this here will it's provided to help you understand what you're seeing on each page. So you can set your county here similar to any other one, right? But what this example is going to do is you'll see leading into each and every visualization information about visualizations that's showing, right? So as we look at like county-wide loss by disaster status, this is basically the same as the county page, right? And so the county page doesn't have, we purposely didn't put all this information onto each page because it's just a lot of like context information. So I've verbalized a lot of that today, but this is our write-up guidance on each one of those visualizations. So you can see how at least we think you might want to utilize these in the mitigation planning process. The same goes for the example disaster here. So this, similarly allows you to go through and look at an example disaster. And take a look at what some guidance and some context for each of those visualizations on the page. And the last thing I was going to share today was a Hurricane Sandy study, and I think I'm going to save that for the next meeting, the next webinar, to be able to show you all a little bit more about how we might go through, what other kinds of aggregates we may want to look at, right? Because something that occurs within disasters, federally declared disasters, is that they are state specific. So there's multiple disaster numbers that add up to the totality of the Sandy the Sandy program or Sandy disaster, for instance. And so we're going to take a look at those in detail next month, or at our next meeting, which might be in September. We still have to plan it onto our calendar here. But between now and then, you can expect that I'll follow up with today's video, and I will follow up with just some information about the bugs, that we fixed the bugs, and that things should work more appropriately as we were hoping they would today for today's call. But again, don't let the bugs that we ran into slow you down from jumping in and looking around. You may just have to set your filters a couple of times to get them to populate throughout the page, and it should mostly work as quickly as I showed Caroline. I was able to gather up that information for her pretty quickly. And feel free also, if you do have any thoughts, like Caroline posted, is like, can you get me this information? Where would I get this specific piece of information? We're happy to either show you where it is inside of this suite of this platform, or to develop that table if it doesn't exist already. So feel free to ask for any kind of data aggregation that you're looking for. And just a reminder about downloading the data. If you're looking to export this data in ways that are not specific to visualizations, or that sort of thing, you can go to the you can set your filters here, right? So similarly, right, this set of filters, state, county, and was it hazard or disaster number, right? You can set these filters here to export the data specific to the things that you're trying to filter for, right? So you can do visible columns or all of the data, which allows you to say, okay, I want to export every bit of information I have about this. And so this is at the event level, right? So each one of these is a specific row in the data set. So you can export all of the rows associated with the filter that you set, and that will give you a CSV that shows you all of the information, right? That's one way of downloading the data. If you scroll down a little bit further, there is also the ability to download data sets from each of the specific data products. So if you click onto any one of these, that'll bring you to our data manager. And this is the data set, information about the data set. And as you scroll to the bottom here, you'll see there's a download button where you can click this and export via CSV. Now, the thing about this is that we don't currently have the ability to filter on this page, so you're going to get the entire data set. So this is going to give you the national data product every time that you come to this page to download. So that's just an FYI. If you wanted the filters, you would set it up here at the top. I see that John is asking about endpoint access. That is something that we are considering, and we have plenty of experience with. I'm not sure yet what our timeline is for that. That's one of the tools that we have scoped into our next year's work, and so that's something that you can look forward to hearing more about in the near future. Probably, I'm not sure exactly when, but we'll keep you informed about that. All right, so
I would just like to jump on with one caveat here with the download of all columns of the Fusion Events dataset. That is a very large download. So just want to give that fair warning to folks.
Yeah, probably best to try to filter it by at least state, if not state and county. And again, those tables that we showed earlier already took that row by row event data and aggregated it, grouped it together. We basically, those tables, the tools that we have are they're SQL query type tools where we're saying group by certain things, right? So we're grouping by hazards, or we're grouping by county, or we're grouping by disaster number, et cetera, right? But even when you filter, so this is Adam is showing a filtered, like a table that has been grouped by disaster. So the category that's on the far, the column that's on the far left is typically our group by column. And so when you download the data for this, it will download based on those groups, right? So you're downloading a table that will show you hurricanes, number of events, number of declared disasters, number of non-declared disasters, et cetera. That's going to be the export you get. When you go to that other page that Adam was just showing, the download page, and you filter down to a state and a county, you're going to get every row of events from the Fusion data set, right? So every single row is a single entry. So there may be multiple entries per disaster because we're associating them each with an NCEI event. So just, FYI, if you want to see what the data looks like on a row by row basis, this is where you do it. All the other places we are doing some level of aggregation and group by to get it to shape more in the ways that we imagine you're probably going to want to use it. Excellent. So we have 2 minutes left. If there's any final questions, thoughts, or concerns. Thank you all again for your patience at the beginning of the meeting today. That was fun to deal with. And Adam, thanks for taking over the sharing of the presentation. As I said earlier, we'll follow up with the video. We will also follow up with some additional information about the status of the platform and a upcoming webinar, likely for September, that we will be presenting more about how to use this data product and some additional aggregations. We do look forward to hearing from you about any ways you might want to export the data for your purposes or any other aggregations that you'd like to see. You can expect us to do something about HMA data between now and the next meeting, as well as that we'll present on at that time. So thank you all, and hope to see you all again soon.